It's time for another paradigm shift. And it's time for maturity. And that's what he wants. That's what he wants to do with us. He wants to bring us to a new level of maturity. And you know what? It's good. We need it. We need it. We always need God changing us and transforming us. And we always need what God has because we don't know nothing. So I'm going to be in 1 Corinthians 13, starting in verse 8. It says, love never fails, but whether there are prophecies, they will fail. Whether there are tongues, they will cease. Whether there is knowledge, it will vanish away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect has come, then that which is in part will be done away with. So he's saying love will never fall away. Love will never come to an end. And love will never be without effect. That's what he's saying. But when it comes to the gifts, they're going to stop. They're going to stop one day. There's no longer going to be a need for our gifts at some point in our life. And if we remember correctly, the whole reason why Paul even wrote this chapter was because the Corinthians were all about the gifts without love. So this is why Paul's going back to prophecies and all these other things. They will stop. But love will never stop. Love will go beyond all these things. So they couldn't grasp the gifts without love. They couldn't grasp that. They couldn't understand that the gifts without love were useless. But we see that now. We see that now. We see the prophetic gift. Oh my gosh, that one blew up. That one blew up and everybody wanted that gift. And everybody wanted to do it. And everybody wanted to be part of it. And all these different gifts and signs and wonders, yeah, they're powerful gifts and they are needed for a time. But we can't get caught up in the gifts. God gives us the gifts for the body to help each other because we all have something different. God gave us each something different. And there's a reason for that because we need it. So he's saying that we should prefer love always because love will last forever. So though we are enabled with the gift, we also have to understand that all of that, it's only obscured. We can only see in part. We only understand so much. So even if we have the gift of knowledge, even if we have the gift of prophecy, even if we have the gift of tongues, we only understand everything just in part now. So he's saying when the perfect has come, that means when we make heaven our home. That's what he's talking about. When we make heaven our home, then we're going to come to a true understanding of God's ways. So everything that we perceive now is going to be different then. Because everything we understand or think we understand right now, it's totally different. God comes in and shifts. God comes in and changes our perceptions. So everything's through our perception. Everything we understand right now, even through our gifts. Even when we didn't know we had gifts, but we were going with our gift, right? Even in that, we didn't fully understand what was going on. We didn't fully understand. We thought it was normal. Somebody looks at us like, yeah, I don't do that. Or I don't hear that. Or I don't understand that. And we're kind of like in shock, like, what? Like he doesn't talk to everybody this way. He doesn't do this to everybody. So everything we do is only in part right now. So everything we know or think we know, the day will be lost. One day it will be lost. Not because of like, oh my gosh, it was useless, but coming to an end. because we're no longer going to need those gifts in heaven. We're no longer going to need it. So we should have the attitude like Paul, when Paul would talk about, that I count all my knowledge. I count all those things that before, like the righteousness through the law, or all his knowledge that he knew about the law, he counts that all as dung, so that I can gain the true understanding of Christ. And that's the kind of attitude we should be having. Like, yes, we have these gifts. Yes, we use them for the glory of God, but with an understanding that we only understand so much. Because if you talk to certain people that have certain gifts and, they might have knowledge, they might be able to understand certain things, so they think they know more than everybody. All of a sudden they know everything. No, we only know a certain amount, and whatever amount God allows. So in verse 11, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know just as I am also known. And now abide faith, hope, love. These three, but the greatest of these is love. So he's comparing the knowledge that we have here on earth now versus the knowledge we're going to have in heaven. So those are the two that he's comparing. And he's saying that once we get to heaven, we're going to have full understanding. See, even though we do have certain gifts, and certain gifts help us fulfill the will of God and give us a certain amount of understanding, and even in all that, in our relationship with God, we still have so many questions, so many things we wonder about, so many weird things that come to our mind, and we're like, well, I wonder how that works, and I wonder what happened. And, we always have all these questions, right, that we're not really going to get an answer to here, because it's not in the Word. It's only going to come when we meet Him. I always tell him, man, we're going to have a long coffee talk, because I have a lot of things to say. I have a lot of questions. But he's saying we're going to have full understanding. And he's saying when we were children, we had certain views, opinions, ideas, and plans. We were kids, when we were children, we used to think one way, right? And we thought everything was easy. We ask our parents for something. Well, I don't have the money. Well, why? All you got to do is use the card. Or all you have to do is this. All you have to do is that. But as we grew and understood more things, most of those things changed. Most of those views changed along with us. Because when we're a child, we understand very little. We really do. But not today. These kids know more than their parents. These kids today, they know a little something, something. It's all through this internet, and it's all through all this stuff. All they have to do is look up something and they get an answer. But what they don't understand is that answer that they're getting might not even be a fact. But they take it in as a fact because that's what they want them to think, right? And so a lot of times in our views as a child, we understand certain things about Christianity. We think we know certain things about the way things are supposed to be. Like let's say somebody's running a certain ministry. Nobody was running that ministry before. But all of a sudden, somebody gets put in that position, and everybody starts all of a sudden, well, if I was them, I would do this, and I would do that, and I would do this. I wouldn't do that, and I wouldn't do that. Everybody all of a sudden knows something, right? We know because it's been done to us. And my thought is, well, then do it. Why weren't you doing it before we stepped in? Why weren't you attending to those people? Why weren't you doing it before we had to step in? Or somebody put us there, should I say. But all of a sudden, everybody has an opinion on how they would do a better job than you. See, child mentality, because as a child we think we know something. As a child our views are very narrow because we don't understand a lot. So we have very narrow views, and certain things that we think are important to us as a child, when we grow up and our views change, we forget about those things that we thought were important, right? Other things became more important. Now it's important to pay our bills. Now it's important to feed our family. Now it's important to clothe them. You know, all these sacrifices you do when you were younger, you didn't think about anybody except yourself, right? Most of our views as a child are very selfish and self-centered. We think about the way we would do it because, you know, our way is better than everybody else's way. That's really what it is. And as a child, we get affected very easily in our emotions. So we're up and we're down. We're up and we're down. Our emotions are constantly changing with our situations because we don't know how to control them. We don't know how to get through them. We don't know how to stay steady. So for one reason or another, our emotions are always out of whack. But the more we mature, we stop thinking and acting like a child. And until we are face to face with Him, everything we see is imperfect. That means it's obscured. That means it's not to its fullness. And that's for the rest of our life while we're here on earth. We're never going to know everything. We're never going to be able to fully mature. Now, we can always get more mature, but we're not going to reach full maturity until we are face to face with Him. And as I was thinking about this, the person that came to my mind when I have to think about somebody going from a child to a man is Peter. Peter. Oh, Peter. This guy, he was one that he was rebuking Jesus. You know, talk about emotions up and down. He was rebuking Jesus because he was not going to go die on the cross. He was sinking, even though he was the only one that stepped out on the boat, but he sank, you know, the moment he looked around. He was also the one that cut off ears. I mean, he was always saying stuff like, Jesus, I'll ride and die with you. And then he denied him. I mean, literally emotional. But then his time came. When it was time for his paradigm shift. When it was time for him to mature. And I want to go to Acts chapter 10. And I'm going to read certain verses. I'm not going to read the whole chapter. But in Acts chapter 10, this is when Peter, it was time for him to grow up. And in the first part, it's this Gentile. He was a God-fearing man, and he had a vision. And in this vision, God spoke to him, telling him to go call for Peter because Peter will tell him what to do. So I'm going to start in verse 9. So Acts 10, verse 9. It says, the next day, as they went on their journey and drew near the city, Peter went up on the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. Then he became very hungry and wanted to eat. But while they were made ready, he fell into a trance. And he saw heaven open, and an object like a great sheet bound at the 4 corners descending to him and let down to the earth. In it were all kinds of 4-footed animals of the earth, wild beasts, creeping things, birds of the air, and a voice came to him, rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, no, not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything common or unclean. So think about this. Peter was a Jew, right? Never before has he eaten any of these types of animals, because they was like defilement or against the Jewish law. So they couldn't do it. Ceremonially, they could not do it. So Peter is kind of like, I mean, think about it. I'm hungry. All of a sudden I get this crazy vision. I'll be thinking, man, something's going on with me. I'm really hungry. He goes into a vision about food, but God is trying to get through to him. God is trying to show him something in a way that only Peter can understand. See, when God is trying to get something through to us, he's going to bring things to us that we can understand. Things that we get. This is why Jesus was always talking in parables, because it was stories that people can relate to. So Peter can relate to this. And a voice spoke to him again the second time. What God has cleansed, you must not call common. What God has pronounced or declared clean or pure, you cannot say it's defiled or impure. Peter, God is trying to speak to you something profound. He's trying to bring something that you yourself have never done before. And this is what God's trying to do. He's trying to do something in us. He's trying to bring something. He's trying to bring a shift that only God can do. And only God can speak to you individually according to your understanding, according to what you can relate to. And Peter, in verse 19, I'm going to skip down to verse 19. It says, while Peter thought about the vision, the Spirit said to him, behold, 3 men are seeking you. Arise, therefore, go down and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. So as Peter's trying to understand what God was trying to show him, as we all have, there's been things spoken into our life before, and we don't quite grasp it in that moment. We're kind of like, okay, I know it means something. We've had dreams, or we've had visions, or this scripture speaking to us, or somebody comes and gives us a word, and we know it means something deeper, but we just can't really fully grasp it. So while he's thinking about it, pondering on it, God, the Spirit speaks to him and tells him, I sent these men to you. They're here for you. Go without doubting. God is saying, go and don't hesitate. Go and don't waver. Go confidently. And this is what God wants to tell us today. I'm going to do something in your life. I'm going to do something in this ministry. I'm going to do something. Do not hesitate. Do not doubt. Do not waver. Be confident in where you're going. See, sometimes God's leading us in a direction. God's leading us to people. God's leading us to speak to people. God's leading us to pray for people. God's leading us to witness to somebody. And we're kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if, like I remember being at outreaches and God telling me, go talk to them. They're Spanish speaking. And I'm thinking, what? How do I know that? How am I supposed to just go up to somebody random and start talking in Spanish? Some people get offended, And so I'm thinking, I don't know. So I'm sitting there for a while, debating and hesitating. The Spirit keeps pushing me and pushing me. And I go and I'm just like, I start talking to them. I'm like, do you speak English? They're like, no. All right. Go and stop hesitating, Esmeralda. Go. Stop wavering. This is what God's trying to get through to us. If God is calling you to do something for Him, we must stop hesitating. Because sometimes we can lose our window. We can lose the moment. And if we don't have the confidence, it's God, that we're hearing God, that it's God's work, the people are going to feel it. They're going to know you're not confident. It's kind of like a salesman. When they're pitching their sale, Man, yeah, and they give you the best speech ever, right? And when they're super enthusiastic and they make you feel like this is the best you're gonna get, people are like, oh, okay, and most people will jump on it, except the smart people. Get out of here with that. you know but the ones that are kind of like, would you like to buy this, and you really don't have confidence in your whole package, then people are going to be sitting there kind of like, oh my gosh, this is painful, can you please hurry up and leave. And this is what God's trying to tell us. If we don't have confidence in who we are in Him, then how do we expect others to become confident in Christ? If we ourselves are not confident in Him, if we ourselves are hesitating even to step out in faith. I'm over here talking to you about faith, but I myself am hesitant. I'm over here talking to you about doing a work for God, but I'm over here wavering. How am I supposed to do that? That's me being tossed like a child, I'm being like a child. I'm not being confident in who and what He's doing. I hear the words, this is what I'm gonna do, but I'm not believing the words. So when it's time to act, I'm hesitating. When it's time to do, I'm hesitating. And He's telling us not to do that. He's telling us, go and do not doubt. Verse 28. Then He said to them, you know how unlawful. This is when Peter goes and meets with Cornelius. So he's at his house. And Peter tells them, you know how unlawful it is for a Jewish man to keep company with or go to one of another nation. But God has shown me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Peter began to have his paradigm shift right here. The moment he walked into this Gentile's house, that should have never been able to happen before Christ, because then they were defiled. So his paradigm shift happened in this very moment, because what he used to believe, what he used to understand, the law he used to follow, he is now starting to comprehend that Christ changed things. He's starting to comprehend that now God opened the door to the Gentiles as well. That it's not just the Jews that have this open door now. Now God came and opened the door for the Gentiles. Peter is beginning to comprehend now that vision that God gave him. He's realizing, it wasn't just hunger pains. Now he's understanding that vision was talking about Gentiles. I cannot call them unclean. I cannot call them defiled. I cannot say that they are impure if God is accepting them. If God has changed things. God came and did a paradigm shift in the whole world at that moment. But Peter's little mind could not fully grasp it. He was still a child, but now he's starting to realize, I must change. When it comes to God's work, the moment we mature is the moment we realize we need to change. God has already changed things. God has already done things. His work has already gone ahead of us. It's us, the ones that need to catch up to it. Because if we think about it, the vision had already came to Cornelius the day before. See, God was setting it all up. God had it all in order. It was the people that needed to line up. When it comes to me and you, God has already set things before us. God has already gone ahead and prepared. It's us that need to change. It's us that need to realize, wait a minute, I think God's doing something. Yes, He's been doing something. I just haven't caught on because I was still being a child. I was still looking at things through my imperfect views. I was still looking at things through my narrow perspective. Verse 34, as it goes on, because Peter started to preach. And then it says, then Peter opened his mouth and said, in truth, I perceive that God shows no partiality, but in every nation, whoever fears him and works righteousness is accepted by him. He came to realize God broke down every barrier that was between Jews and Gentiles, between the law and religion. He came to realize that God came and broke those barriers and that anybody can come to him. Anybody can come to God. This is why it's important that we need to keep love, the virtue of love, as the most important. Because if we keep love as the most important out of all, because it's what helps us love God, love our brethren, love others, it's going to keep that love and that affection for people. That love is going to help us break down every barrier that comes between us and them, between them and God. Love is going to break down barriers. Christ dying on the cross because of his love. The Father sending Jesus Christ because of his love broke down every barrier to the point that it took the keys from death. No longer do we have to be in bondage. No longer are we trapped in the old ways of thinking. God came and broke down those barriers that are in our mind and in our heart. But we must come to this understanding where Peter said, in truth, I perceive. That means I'm truly understanding now. I'm understanding that I need to mature. I need to change my ways. I need to change my thoughts. I need to change my ideas. I must mature. We must grow. See, not everything that we think now, we're going to think in 5 years from now. So if we get stuck and if we get prideful and we want to be like, no, this is what it is and this is how I think and this is the right way, we're the ones that are going to end up looking foolish, because in 5 years from now, we're talking different. We're talking different. How many times in our Christian walk have we done that? I believed one way, because I didn't understand a whole lot of things about the Bible. I didn't know a lot of the background of the Bible. So, I don't know. In my mentality, when he talked about slaves, I was thinking about, the blacks and stuff like that. When they were enslaved, I had no clue he was talking about the Jews. Until I came into an understanding. Oh, he's talking about his people. I started going to the background. And all these different things. When they talk about how people should be and how people should act, I was putting myself in a box. I had no idea that God gives everybody their own personality. Why? Because religious people were always trying to put me in a box. And I'm like, okay, well, they know better, so I need to try. And every time I tried, I just like pop back up. And pop back up. And I'm just like, man, God, they would call me rebellious. They would call me this. They would call me that. I'm not trying to be rebellious, God, but I just don't go with the flow like everybody else. I ask questions. Just because he told me so, it doesn't mean it's so. I need to know for myself, is this the right thing to do? Is this the right way? Just because a man tells me that this is what we need to do, unless I know that he's a man of God, he's honest, he's genuine, he's true, and he does it himself, okay, I'll go, I'll do. But if I don't know you, I'm going to be questioning. I'm going to be like, nah, let me find out for myself. Because I'm not trying to get caught up where I don't belong. Hey, we all have gotten pulled to a certain point until we come to the understanding that was not even God at all. That was human understanding of what they thought the word meant. Until the Spirit of God comes and brings it to life and enlightens us and changes our heart and changes our mind. All of a sudden, I realized, whoa, the word is meant to convict me and to change me. The word is meant to help me learn how to walk. The word is not for me to throw at others, because a lot of times that's what we do. We read the word or we're listening to a message and we're like, oh, that's for so-and-so. That's for so-and-so. And we're like, hello, we're supposed to be reading the word to convict us. We're supposed to be receiving the message for us to grow, for us to learn. And the danger, if we don't grow, the danger is if we don't allow God to shift our minds and bring maturity to us. The opposite of a paradigm shift is we become stagnant, idle, slothful, lethargic, and inactive. Those are the opposite of a paradigm shift. If we don't go, if we hesitate, if we waver too long, we're going to become stagnant. And we know what happens with stagnant water. It gets stanky. We begin to stink. Our attitude begins to stink. We get idle. We're sitting there twirling our thumbs while everybody around us is doing the work for God. And we're sitting there trying to pretend like we're busy and we're not. And wondering why we are missing something. If we get lazy, if we don't have energy to do God's work, we become inactive. See, when we do God's work, we need energy behind it. We need passion behind it. If we don't have the passion, we're not going to want to do the work. We're just showing up just to say I showed up. It's like when you don't want to go to work, but you have to show up or you don't get paid. You put on the fake smile. You put on that squeaky voice. You don't use that voice at home. You know what I mean? But all of a sudden you're talking differently. You're smiling because, hey, you need that paycheck. We don't want to be like that at church. We don't want to be like that doing the work of God, putting on this fake stuff when we don't have true passion on the inside. See, because it's this passion, it comes from our love for God. This passion comes and it stems from that place of God. I just want to serve you. I just want to do your work. See, Peter, though he was a child, though he was always up and down, he loved God. And remember when Christ came and told him, Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord, you know that I do. He's saying, yes, Lord, I'm your friend. I love you like my friend. See, but Jesus was trying to get to him. Jesus was trying to get to him in a different love sense. Not just my friend. See, because when we're the friend of God, it means we are in agreement with his plan and will. We're in agreement with where he's going. And Peter had a love for Jesus Christ. This is why he kept trying. Even if we are childish, even if we keep putting our foot in our mouth like Peter, even if we drown, even if we're always messing up, when you have a love for God, a real, genuine love for God, the Spirit of God is going to come to you one day and you're going to have your paradigm shift. You're going to become mature. You're not going to miss it, but you have to keep pushing forward. And when Peter was ready for his paradigm shift, he went. He didn't hesitate. He went. He brought the gospel to the Gentiles. He was the first one to bring the gospel to the Gentiles. How powerful is that? Something that had not been done besides Christ. He did it. He did it. Though he just said a lot of dumb things, he really did. If we read all the things Peter did, we're like, oh my gosh, Peter, really? But if we were in his shoes, we would be doing the exact same thing. You know, like when Zodiac brought up about washing the feet, and Peter's like, nah, don't touch me, Lord, you know. And he's just like, well, you have no part of me. He's like, well, then wash all of me. You know, it's just like our understanding is so immature. But the more we grow in God, the more we realize love is going to use everything God has put inside of us for the good of God's kingdom. We're here to build the kingdom of God. We're not here to build our own kingdom. We're not here to pat ourselves on the back like, oh, I did a good job. We're not here to look good. We're here to build a kingdom. We're here to bring the gospel to those that have barriers. We're here to break down those barriers. We're here to bring the good message. The gospel is good news. He came to set us free. If Peter was not willing to change his mind, he would have never went to Cornelius in their house. They would have never had the opportunity that they did that day. And we don't know what that opportunity, how God would have made it a different way. But Peter would have lost that. We don't want to lose our opportunity. See, God always will use somebody else if he has to. But we ourselves will be the ones to lose out on what God has for us individually. So I encourage each and every one of us, be willing to mature, be willing to grow, and not hesitate. Amen. Lord, we give you praise, my God.